is another episode of the Backstage Sports Podcast. I'm Joe Connor.
I am JT Harker, and if you're in Southern California and in the country world, you absolutely know his voice from the morning show on KFROG. Before that, another giant country station that will go unnamed. And you probably also know his face because he is a huge supporter of local country artists like myself and bands and the amazing country bars and venues that have kept musicians like me and Joe busy all these years.
Yes.
He also is the go-to guy to host country events and shows throughout the region. Florida native, giant Florida Gator fan. He's about 6'4", 230 pounds of pure, unadulterated muscle, and enjoys long walks on the beach. And a girl once told me that he has a medium to large size ding-a-ling. He's one of my best buds in the country music world and has been a giant supporter of my career, Mr. David Bugenske.
Yeah, welcome in. Let's do it.
That's an intro.
Yeah, it is.
That's one of the best intros we've ever had.
Easily, by far.
Medium to large size. What?
Ding-a-ling.
Yeah.
Is that a scientific term?
Your penis.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I can't say you're not accurate.
Hey, man. I figured medium to large, it lands somewhere in that region.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. We'll accept those adjectives. Good to be with both of you. Good to see both of your faces. I miss you both.
Yeah, man.
It's been a long time because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
Miss the hell out of you, man. So listen.
Yeah.
First thing I wanted to ask you is, you're a Florida native, which I'm assuming means you're born and raised. Is that true in Florida?
No, military brat. So I've lived everywhere. Florida
Gotcha.
just has always been home base, like wherever we
Gotcha.
moved to, we always end up back in Florida. So.
Yeah.
Okay, and was it just being that was the main home base? Is that how you became a Gator fan, or was it a family thing?
I actually worked for the Florida Gators for right out of college for like 4 or 5 years.
Wow, were you in charge of rounding up the girls for the players?
That's a serious job, though.
Tim Tebow's virginity, so I had to make sure that he never. I was there during the fun years. I was there during the Tebow years. I was there during the basketball run where they had 2 championships with Joakim Noah and Al Horford.
Wow.
Yeah,
I watched all those teams very carefully, actually. Both the football.
I watched the Joakim Noah team. I didn't watch much of them after that.
Yeah.
No,
well, those teams
because there was no need.
There was nothing to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't know that's where Jason Williams went to go to college before the NBA. But he had some problem where he didn't finish the season and then just entered the draft instead of going back. But he played there. I remember. Joakim Noah, Al Horford,
Yeah, he did go there.
Jeff Green. Who was the guy, the little white dude that was an All-American, and he went there and he had problems too, and I think he had to leave the college and we never heard from him again. You know what I'm talking about, the little white point guard?
Was it Lee Humphreys or Chandler Parsons?
No,
I
I remember
remember.
Chandler Parsons too. No, his name this is gonna bug the crap out of me too. He was a baller.
Yeah, I think he shot threes like nobody
Shot
else
threes,
could.
dude. This dude averaged like 40 a game his senior year in high school, and he was
Wow.
like
He
my
went to
size.
Europe, I believe. I think he played basketball in Europe.
That would make sense. Anyway, but how did you get? And you've told me this story before, but how did you end up on the West Coast, and how did you get into radio?
Just a road trip. Got laid off in Florida, and then came out here and just worked my butt off. That's it. I just took one job after the other, kind of like I did the typical LA thing, where you just get to know as many people as possible and smile and be nice, and hopefully somebody hires you. And that's how I got into country radio.
So was this a decision that you were like, man, this is what I want to do? Or did it just kind of happen? You took advantage of an opportunity?
No, I've always been a country music fan, but Stagecoach.
Stagecoach?
Went 1 year, I saw a radio station. I was like, I'm going to work there. And sure enough, I think 8 months later, I was hired.
Oh,
Boom.
that's dope.
This
Boom.
is like some visualization shit.
Yeah, it is.
There's a lot of visuals at Stagecoach that will inspire anybody to get a job.
That's a fact. That is a fact
That
of
is
life.
100% a fact.
Yeah,
Although I was with a girl at the time that we played it, so I didn't notice any of that stuff.
that's true. That's true.
And neither did
you guys did play Stagecoach.
Yeah.
And Joe didn't notice it either because
Me
he was already
neither.
with Czar.
Yeah.
So we didn't notice anything.
Never saw anybody.
Yeah, nothing.
So obviously you're a Florida guy, not necessarily a Dolphins fan. You root for the Bucks, right? And Joe, I mean, you kind of, I shouldn't say you root for him, but you're kind of in support of the Bucks. Now, Joe and I were on a little bit different ends of the spectrum. He had the Bucks not quite doing as well. I had them doing about as well, but I also had them winning the division, which they did not do. But how did you feel when you saw the Tom Brady news of him going there? And how did the season and what they're doing right now compare to kind of your expectations?
Oh, I thought their season would be a little bit better. I think they ended, 11-5?
Yeah.
Yes.
And they, interesting enough, they're playing the Saints, and they were beat by the Saints.
Yeah.
Twice in regular season, I think game 1 was a loss to the Saints.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
And that one was understandable for me because it's new, everything's new, barely a preseason. The second one, that was one of the most anticipated games of the season.
It was.
It may have been the most.
Yeah.
It may have been the biggest anticipated game of the season because they were both kicking ass, and they got smoked.
They got smoked.
Smoked.
They lost by over 30 points.
It was crazy.
The second one was 38-3.
It was crazy.
That's right. And most anticipated, not just because, they're both kick-ass teams, but you're talking about two quarterbacks that are old AF.
Right.
and they're better than all the younger guys except for Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson maybe. But I mean, these two guys are in their 40s. I think Drew Brees is 41. Tom Brady's, God, who cares? He's so beautiful.
I think Drew Brees just had a birthday, so I think he just turned 42. I think.
Wow. Is he retiring? I think this might be his last go.
I think he is.
He's pulling the Brett Favre vibes though, where like he's retiring depending on who asked, or like he might like give his retirement thing and then pull it back, So who knows?
The difference there is Drew Brees actually likes spending time with his family. Brett Favre, talking to any woman on the sideline.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, that's got to be a hard thing, man. Like you're in one of the greatest careers a man could ever ask for, and you've lived your dream and brought a Super Bowl to a team that had just been ravished by Katrina. You're a giant hero in that area and a giant hero in the sport, and you've got to like really hang it up.
Yeah.
Like really decide that you're done.
Yeah.
That's got to be tough. I'm sure I could see him being an analyst. I'm sure he'd be great at it, but it's
I think it's going to depend on how far that they get this year. I think like if they get waxed this weekend, right? Or they make it to the Super Bowl, I think like if they make it to the Super Bowl, he's probably going to go like, all right, I want to do this again.
Yeah.
Especially if they lose.
It's interesting because we talked last week and we talked about our picks. I completely forgot about the Saints. Forgot about the Saints when I picked the Seahawks.
Been on the radar the whole season. Yeah.
What's that?
They've been on the radar the whole season. A lot of people haven't even them and the Packers. A lot of people haven't
them and the Packers.
Yeah, because it's the Chiefs, it's the Bucks. I know Cleveland was even being considered for a little bit, which they surprised everybody.
Yeah, the Saints are an interesting one too because they not only still have a great offense, but they out of all the big offensive teams, they have the best defense. So they shouldn't have been under the radar at all. But I think the NFC was just kind of under the radar. Like all the talk all year was about the Ravens early, and then the Chiefs, and then the Steelers, and then how the Steelers were collapsing, and then how all the storyline, the Titans, all the storylines were these AFC teams. And
the Titans lost too, didn't they?
Yeah.
They lost.
Yeah.
Well, I think also the issue was Drew Brees went out and then Taysom Hill came in and they were still winning, but like people weren't talking about them as much because I guess everybody just kind of assumed like they were just going to go in a tank, but they didn't. They just kept winning.
Right. That's interesting.
How bad do the rest of the Saints players want Drew Brees to retire and see this new guy come in because he's a stud?
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't really watched a lot of him other than when he's played with Brees when they kind of spot play him. But I didn't. I should have watched some of those games where he was starting. But
yeah, I mean, he was cool. He did his job. He was kind of like, it's funny we were talking about Tim Tebow. He was kind of like a Tim Tebow to me, even though I wouldn't disrespect him. Like he can throw much better than Tim Tebow. But he did give me like Tim Tebow vibes. You know what I mean? Where he was just like he's just a football player. Like he kind of built like a fullback, but he can pass a little bit. He can run a little bit, so.
Yeah, I don't know if I can picture him as a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Me neither.
And I sure as hell
can't. He might have something else to say to you about that, and he's a little bit bigger. I don't know if I'd argue with him.
I wouldn't say that to his face. This is why we have a podcast, so we can talk shit on the air.
100%.
I'm looking at what's his stats. Oh, he's only 6'2". I thought he was much taller. He's only 220.
Oh, he's short as
fuck. He runs like he's 6'5".
He's like a midget. He's like a midget.
But he's stocky. He's super stocky.
6'2", 230. He's small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more question. Urban Meyer to the NFL. There's talk about that, and you obviously experienced a lot of Urban Meyer. He brought all that success to that football program. What do you think about how he'd do in the league?
Where's he going, Jaguars?
They're talking about several teams being interested.
Yeah, he's going to be doing some interviews. He might even be interviewing with my Eagles.
I thought he was done because of his health, and his family was really concerned because he had a lot of health problems. Obviously he saw great success with college, the Gators, and then Ohio stole him from us, and we hated that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see him coaching again. But, I mean, again, if his health is an issue, he better be careful. NFL seems to be more stressful than college.
Right.
Throw us your Super Bowl picks real quick, David.
No, don't. We're not going to do that yet.
Don't do that. Whatever you do, don't.
Right before we get you out of here, we're gonna get your pick.
All right, Joe, what you got for us?
Yeah. So before we get to the picks, Tampa wins. We were just talking about, Tampa and Brady. So it's a perfect little segue here. Tampa wins a close game versus Washington. What was your take on that game? I'll tell you real quick up front. The first thing I tweeted was no way this game should have been this close. And it makes me concerned for them this week coming up versus the Saints, because they lost in my mind, they lost to a Washington team with no name that was playing a backup, that B was only in that game, only literally physically in the game, because the week before the Eagles completely forfeited the game and Doug Pederson handed them a playoff berth on a silver platter. So then watching the game and seeing how close the game was, like 7-3 or something for like the first half of the game. So watching it and then seeing how they were in my mind, they were supposed to wipe Washington off the field, and it didn't happen. What was your take on that?
Not a good team. No. Yeah, it was surprising to see how much the Buccaneers struggled. But you got to think they're still, even though they played the whole season together, this is their first time in the playoffs in a while. And a lot of these guys, it's their first time too. There's a lot of pressure because people expect them to go to the Super Bowl.
Right.
They expect them to win it all. They have the team to do it, for crying out loud. Gronkowski came out of retirement to be on the team.
Yeah.
So, and you have the GOAT. You got to win. So there was a lot of pressure. So I could understand why they struggled. I think this next game is going to be more interesting.
Yeah.
I hate to do it, but definitely pick the Saints to beat them, just because I do think Drew Brees is done. He's hungrier. They definitely have a better running back with Kamara.
Yeah.
And he's unstoppable. And I think it's going to be very close, but I think the Saints are going to beat the Bucs.
Yeah, that'd be my pick.
Yeah. If I had to bet money, I'm rooting for the Bucs. If I had to bet money, I'd bet on the Saints. And it's tough though. It's the NFL. Game one.
Tom Brady's sexy.
Tom Brady's hot as fuck. AF. Hot as AF. But game one between those two teams was lopsided, but there's all sorts of reasons why that's understandable. Game two, where you'd expect it to be closer, was really bad. Now the advantage both teams have, but definitely the Bucs, they've seen them twice now, right?
Yeah.
And now they've got a week to prepare for it. It's the NFL. Games are usually close in the playoffs, so you just never know.
Yeah.
Joe said it better. The Saints have, I think, a far better defense and a better offensive line. And that's, unless Tom Brady, pulls off a miracle. He always says he doesn't have sex with his wife before the games because he wants all that testosterone. Maybe he should change it.
Maybe just go full blast before this game. Switch it up. Try something new.
Maybe he just needs to go down the middle and just go Pornhub. So it's not the full thing,
Or
but
Chatterbait.
it's some sort of emotional and mental release.
Yeah, that or Chatterbait, either one.
Yeah.
But
what's Chatterbait, Joe?
No clue. Never heard of it. No clue. Okay.
I
actually family-friendly station. I don't know either.
I actually don't know what it is. I just keep seeing it whenever I go to Pornhub.
Oh, okay. There it goes. Just, just ad sales. That's all.
Wait, what's Pornhub?
Sponsor us, Pornhub. Sponsor us.
Yeah, never heard of that either.
But yeah, but we'll see. I mean, we've seen crazier things happen. I mean, we've had this.
Yeah.
We talked about Tom Brady a lot, and listen, he can get it done. If they have the right scheme, the defense shows up, and the offense is ready to go. He can do it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't shock me if he got it done.
It's to your point. It wouldn't shock me at all if they won this game. I'm just looking at, the wins that they got down the stretch, the teams that they played down the stretch, and then looking at how they looked against a terrible winner of the worst division in maybe the history of football. You know what I mean? So it just didn't look good to me, and I'm like, they're not gonna. If they play like this against the Saints, they'll lose again, 38-3.
Yeah, but they do have the one major common denominator between the teams that Tom Brady has struggled against, which is that really, really strong front four.
Yeah,
which the Saints, are good, but they don't have that strong of a front four. So, the offensive line is going to have to show up. But if they can protect him, it'll be a close game. If they're rushing him all day, it won't be for sure because
they did a good job. They did a good job protecting him against Washington. So that was an impressive thing that I saw. He did a really good job. That's the one thing that he still has. He still has really good happy feet in the pocket, where like his footwork in the pocket is still like second to none. But
it's just slow.
It's just slow.
Excellent.
But it's still good enough to keep him upright if they do it together.
43 years old.
Yeah, that part too.
He's 43 years old, and he was slow in junior high school. So,
But now he has lost. That's interesting too. And keep this in mind. I've been gambling every week on DraftKings, and I haven't won a single dollar. Not a single dollar. And so I'm going to put money on the Saints and their players in favor of any Buccaneers players. So that's probably a good sign the Buccaneers are going to win. Yeah. But Tom Brady, knowing that he lost twice this season, and he's done this his whole career, he gets angry. There's no stopping him.
Yeah.
When he gets motivated, he can do some incredible things.
That's the game I'm looking forward to. To me,
yeah, me too. Yeah, that's gonna be a prime. That's gonna be a prime game. We got to talk about this other debacle that happened called the Steelers and the Browns game. The Steelers got absolutely waxed by the Browns, who they were talking shit on just a week before. Juju Smith comes out and says the Browns are still the Browns, and they have, the normal animosity between those two. But I didn't expect this. Like, I didn't expect it to go down how it went down. What was your take on what happened with the Steelers? Now, here's the thing too. The first thing that I thought about was like, hey, I've personally been telling you guys that the Steelers were the most fraudulent 11-0 undefeated team that I've seen in a long time. And the Steelers fans jumped in the comments and tried to take my head off. And this is exactly why I said what I said.
Yeah, I didn't watch.
Helty was hiking the ball like he was watching Chatterbait.
I didn't watch the game, but I know the score.
It was terrible.
The score actually wasn't that bad, but
no. The end. It was one of those. It was one of those blowouts where like the ending score did not tell the story of the game.
Right.
Like it wasn't as
the
close.
Ending score screwed up everybody on DraftKings. That's what they did.
Right. It had to, because it ended 48-37.
Right.
But they were down 28-0 at halftime.
Yeah.
Like the game was over. It was just a lot of, because Ben threw for 500 yards total for the game. It was empty calories. Like the game was over at halftime.
The crazy thing about that game, especially with the Browns, is that they smoked the Browns earlier in the year.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest lopsided wins of the entire season in the whole league. Like they smoked them. Yeah. So you would think that at the very least they'd get by him, but as the season went on, they just slowly fell apart. I mean, you heard Mike Tomlin say it. He's like, we died on the vine. Like it was just a slow death, and then they end up getting beat by a team that they've historically dominated. Well, everybody's historically dominated the Browns for a very long time.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate to see, but the Browns are on their way up, and the Steelers have an older Ben Roethlisberger. They might have to look for a new quarterback because they've got talent.
They got talent, but they got a lot of things that they got to work on. They had 0 run game. I think they said Ben threw the ball 48 times or something like that. It's just like, and it's this. These are things that we talked about earlier in the season when you're watching them. Not only was it a competition thing where you're looking, you're like, they're just getting fat off the hog. They're not playing anybody. They're not beating any quality teams. And then on top of that, you didn't really see a good run game. They didn't really have balance. The defense was shaky at times. And it was just like, this is not the 11-0 type of team, the undefeated type of team that you could confidently be like, oh yeah, they'll be in the Super Bowl. So I thought a lot of their season was empty calories, and I saw this coming. This didn't surprise me at all.
It's interesting because it's still very hard to go 11-0 in the National Football League, and the Ravens for a minute looked like they were not going to be what we expected them to be, which they kind of still weren't, but they are in the playoffs and they just won a game. And the Titans were in as well, and they did beat the Titans. So, I mean, they had some good wins, and you can only play the teams in front of you. You know what I mean? So for me, I was like, look, Mike Tomlin, Ben Roethlisberger, they got talent on offense, and they've been overall a strong defense. So was I super hyped on the Steelers? No, but I thought, I definitely thought it wouldn't have surprised me if they went and beat anybody. But and now I don't feel like that about the Browns. Like, I don't feel like they're going to beat anybody else, but I would have felt that way if the Steelers got through this round. I felt like they could still have gotten it done with the experience and the coaching. But
I disagree. I think the Browns are gonna bring it to the Chiefs this weekend.
Wow, really? Bold prediction off the. So before you get into this bold prediction off the top rope, because we're gonna get your Super Bowl prediction and all of that good stuff. Let's pull up the bracket, and don't lose your thought. We're gonna pull up the playoff bracket here, for those of you who are watching. Okay, so continue. You were coming off the top rope with a hot take.
Well. Here's why the Browns beat the Steelers. They had the bigger chub for victory.
A chub, for those who don't know, is a medium to large size dingling.
Okay.
The very first play, they Pouncey hiked it over Roethlisberger's head. You can already tell they weren't ready to win. They probably thought they were going to come in and beat the Browns. I'm almost worried the Chiefs are going to do the same. They got some swagger. They're a little cocky. Yeah. And the Browns are hungry. Baker Mayfield, I don't know if you guys know this fact, the last time the Browns won a playoff game, he was 1.
Woo! That's insane.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Now he's 25. He's 25. He's hungry.
Yeah.
He wants to earn a big paycheck. And they got Kareem Hunt, who, I mean, there's a lot of controversy whether or not he should be in the NFL, but he is. And he's playing his old team. He has some.
They got a lot of talent.
Yeah. And then you got Chubb, one of the best running backs. Yeah. It's gonna be a big game, I think.
Baker Mayfield has also taken over the throne from both Manning brothers as doing the best commercials.
Yes, it's like too many. It's like every other commercial is a Baker Progressive commercial. I don't know how he has time to practice.
The ones where he lives in the stadium, like that's his house, fucking kill me.
They are good commercials, though. I'm not gonna lie. But I do think.
Look at the Seahawks Rams. I don't see either one of them. They should both lose.
So you're picking the Chiefs to beat the Browns, the Browns to beat the Chiefs, which is like, okay, wow.
That's a big pick.
That's a big pick. That's a bold prediction. And then what do you think about Bills Ravens?
I think that's an irrelevant game too, because I think whoever wins Browns Chiefs, which I am picking the Browns, will beat either one of those teams, and they go into the Super Bowl. And am I getting my final prediction?
Wow. Is that it? Are you picking the Browns to make it all the way to the bowl?
I'm picking Browns, Packers win.
Wow.
Dude, that's like back to 1943 and shit. That's like some old school championship
Super
shit.
Bowl.
Ask me again how much I've won gambling every week on DraftKings this season.
$0. Listen. That's like Bart Starr is coming back for the Packers, and Jim Brown is coming back to play for the Browns again.
Yeah,
that's how old
my
school
predictions mean nothing.
Wow. Yeah, that's a bold one. I don't think I like the Browns and what they've done this year, but I think they have been somewhat of a Cinderella story. And if you watch March Madness, you know that all these Cinderella stories must come to an end at some time. And I think this is the week for that story to come to an end. I think the Chiefs, the thing that worries me about the Chiefs is rust versus rest. They have effectively have not played a game in 2-3 weeks, right? By the time that they played this game, seriously, you know, they played, you know, they had the bye, but then before that, they basically kind of took off. And, you know, so to me, that's a real threat to them. But I think they should win this game. I think it'll be I think the game will be much closer than people think, though. So,
yeah, I agree. And it all depends on how healthy their running backs are, too, for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I mean, they had some rest, but they were having problems with I'm blanking on his name. The two last name dude.
Oh, Edwards Helaire. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's hilarious.
It'll be a fun game, but I do think the Browns have a very good chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
my pick already left. The Seahawks already lost. I picked them to win the whole thing, which
did.
Which is out my ass. I mean, whatever. I just was like, well, what, you know, Seahawks.
They weren't looking. They were another one that was similar to the Steelers to me, where they had been trending down towards the end of the season, and I wasn't surprised that they lost to the Rams. They weren't looking good.
Their defense, which was getting better as the season went on, also got worse near the end of the season. That's never a good sign.
Yeah. So who do you have winning Browns Chiefs, JT?
I got to go with the Chiefs. I mean, I already picked the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl, so now I'm just going to say they're still going to the Super Bowl. Now I'm just going to pick them for the back-to-back since the Seahawks are out.
Who do you have for Bills Ravens?
Oh, man, I'm going to go with the Bills.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the Bills. And
I'm not going to lie, I think the Bills get it done too.
Yeah, and even though I'm picking the Chiefs, and I would love to see them win because I love Andy Reid and I love Mahomes, but I actually if I was going straight with heart, I would actually rather see the Bills win the whole thing. I think that'd be a great story.
It would be a crazy story. Who do you think wins Packers-Rams?
I'm going to go with Packers, even though the Rams defense is much, much better. I mean, shoot, the Rams, Goff was out, came in because their backup got a concussion and had to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And they came in. I mean, I don't know.
They all over the place.
Yeah, they're all over. Now, look, earlier in the year, they looked like they were going to finish last in albeit a really good division. Really good division. I mean, I told you at the beginning of the year, because I watched them play 3 or 4 weeks in a row, they have a good team. Now, the problem is the quarterback is one of the problems. They don't have an elite quarterback, but they had a really good defense. They have weapons on offense. They're a very good football team, and McVay is a top tier coach. Yeah, he is a top tier coach, and they got a great organization. I think they got a real quarterback problem, because I agree with I agree with everything you said, and I think that when Jared Goff was playing really well, they were a Super Bowl team. Right.
And I think that he since when him and Carson Wentz are very much on the same wavelength here, where like they got paid and then all of a sudden everything started going south. And the teams went south. And I think that if you can give that team a solid quarterback, I think they'll be back to being a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing is when they had Goff early, they had an elite Todd Gurley, and that was a big help. You know, if Goff had Derrick Henry, it'd be a different story. But,
right.
And it's the same thing with the Niners. I love Garoppolo, but there's been rumors about a few different quarterbacks. There was a rumor about Deshaun Watson. Listen. You get an opportunity to get Deshaun Watson in a 49ers uniform, you 100 gazillion% do it, because that's a guy who can not only manage you to win, he can win you a win on his own some weeks when you need it.
100%.
You know what I mean? And Garoppolo is just really not that guy, even though I'm a fan. 100%. But Deshaun Watson, yes. Even maybe Tua, yes, because he's got the ability and he's probably got a higher ceiling than Garoppolo does.
Yeah. Who do you got for Bucks Saints?
I'm gonna go with the Bucks.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the Bucks.
Oh, before we get you out of here, David, the Eagles fired Doug Pederson, which is not something that was not surprising to me either, because we came on here after the BS that he pulled in week 17, and I was like, I don't know how he goes back into that locker room after pulling that. It just was a mess. It was a PR mess. It was a football mess. It just was a mess. Where do you guys think that Doug Pederson ends up, and what did you think about the firing? Did you think it was a little premature, or were you on board with the firing?
What do you think, David?
First of all, Derrick Henry, he would help out any quarterback. I mean, look at Tannehill.
Yeah, right, right.
Exactly.
Case in point.
Exactly.
Ryan Tannehill. Yeah.
Tannehill. Like, he'll be good on any team. Refresh my memory. What happened with Peterson? I know he got fired from the Eagles.
At the end of the game, when in week 17, he ends up the game is close. I think the Eagles are only down 3 points going into the fourth quarter, which also shouldn't have happened. The game should have been tied going into the fourth quarter, because they had a 4th and 8 that Doug Pederson decides to go for instead of just kicking the field goal, tying the game up, going to the fourth quarter tied. He went for it. They didn't get it. So they go down 3 at the start of the fourth. He benches Jalen Hurts, who's playing pretty well at that point with a depleted roster, playing pretty well. He benches him for Nate Sudfeld, who is the backup's backup. Has been there for 4 years, has been a backup for 4 years, has never been considered to be a threat to take the starting job or anything like that. He puts him in. The rest of the game is history. And then the locker room, the players are coming out. They're talking to the media. They're like, that was Bush League. They don't like it. They were upset. They were on the field for hours afterwards. It was a whole debacle. And I was just like, I don't see how he gets brought back after this.
Yeah. Totally understand the firing. Now, it might seem premature for any other team. I actually just went to Philadelphia for the first time over the holidays. First time ever going to that city. Beautiful city.
Yeah.
And the people were surprisingly, because you hear these negative things about Philadelphia as far as, being a busy city and how not mean, but kind of rude. People have their own lives. It's a big city.
Yeah.
No, these were the nicest people I've ever dealt with. I mean, Philadelphia, nice people everywhere, but all of them are wearing Eagle stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, at least 90% of the people that I saw downtown were all wearing Eagle stuff. So they're diehard fans. I mean, if you have a coach that makes decisions like that, you're gone, unfortunately.
Yeah. And that's what I said. I said and that was a part of my take on Carson Wentz, because once you put Jalen Hurts in the game, to me, there was no going back to Carson Wentz, because you would have a revolt by the fan base, because we saw how much better Jalen was playing other than Carson. Mm-hmm. So I think that was a dilemma that they were going to have to deal with, because like you said, we're hardcore. You have a small percentage, I think, that are just super loyalists that are doing the Ben Simmons thing, where no matter how bad Carson Wentz plays, they want him to stay. But so there's the friction there. But like you said, it's diehard, and that move was a piss poor move, because I think it wasn't so much of him having Nate Sudfeld get reps in the game. It was the way that he did it, where they got to the finish line of the game and gave up a game that people wanted to see Jalen Hurts have the chance to finish and win that game and take that momentum in the next year. And it was like, if you wanted to just get Nate Sudfeld reps, you should have just started him from the beginning of the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
he'll end up somewhere, and it'll probably be wherever Urban Meyer doesn't. But how big of a smile does Nick Foles have on his face?
He has to be doing backflips at this point, right?
Because I know Carson Wentz is a competitor, and he's always been their starter, but like you said, after getting the big payday, he's gone downhill.
Right.
True, but you know what? The Bears also were barely 500, if that, and then just got beat in the first round too. They ain't going anywhere either.
Yeah.
They ain't going anywhere. The Bears, go get Cam Newton.
How about that? They should. I wanted to bring Cam Newton in to Philly as a backup. I thought that would be a good vibe to just maybe trade him to New England, see what Bill Belichick can do with him, and then bring Cam in and have him back up Jalen.
Joe, what do you think? How do you think the future looks with Jalen Hurts?
I think it's bright. I think he's a starter. I think he's a really good starter in this league, and I think he should be. I think he should be the Eagles starter next year. because I've seen enough.
Are the Patriots not keeping Cam Newton? Some sites are saying they're keeping him for another year.
Yeah, I've been hearing more often than not that they are going to move on from him.
It's got to come down to, and we talked about this before, Joe. If you are getting something better, or if you're drafting something that you think can be better, then yeah. If not, then what are you going to do? Forfeit the season because you know what I mean? Like, it's got to come down to what you got.
Yeah.
They got to keep in mind too. He came in there after taking over Brady. I mean, come on,
right. And the cupboard was bare when he got in there. He had nothing to deal with. Like he has nothing.
Yeah. I mean, watching the games, watching him play. Yeah, he made some silly mistakes, but they weren't entirely his fault. And he's learning a whole new program. He's taken over after the legendary Tom Brady, who will probably not even argue very hard that he is the best quarterback of all time. Tom Brady, the best quarterback.
Joe will argue that very hard.
No, I don't argue against Tom Brady. I argue against the theory that it ends up connecting in the basketball, because a lot of people will go, well, I think that, they'll say, well, LeBron isn't the GOAT because he lost in the final and Jordan didn't. And then I say, well, by your theory, Joe Montana is the GOAT, right? Like by that same theory. But people don't, when you make people have to stick to their own theories, they don't like it.
You do what I do. You do what I do. And don't get me wrong. There are some people with great arguments, but you do what I just did it the other day, Joe, when you tagged me in this fucking post. I hate you for doing this.
What was it?
In that post on Instagram the other day, that was, what was it? It was something about Jordan. And all these guys are commenting, and I responded to you with a big lengthy one because like this motherfucker is gonna get me going right now. And it was about. Let me tell you briefly. It was about when LeBron leaves the team is terrible. They're it was
trash.
about when LeBron left the team.
And when Jordan left his team, they lost 2 fewer games.
Which is an awful comparison. And
I don't know why it's not an awful.
It's very obvious why it's awful. But regardless, I said something, and then this guy with his tag was like Jordan against Jordan foolishness was his hashtag or his handle or whatever. And we go back and forth. And dude, I get why you get into these things with some of these, because there's Jordan fans that are just ridiculously extreme.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And it's the same with LeBron.
It's the same with everybody has
saying things, and when you say them, you can make it sound like a fact. You can, because because you're using facts, but I just destroyed this guy and he just kept coming back. And then I go hours later after I've been going back and forth with this dude, and I realize he's got 1 follower on Instagram. And I was like, this is all Joe's fault. This is all Joe's fault.
He's just trolling.
Look, I could solve this with somebody who's not educated in basketball, somebody who's not a basketball fan, simply because I could never play it. I am so uncoordinated. I just never became a huge fan of basketball.
Yeah.
It all comes down to Space Jam and LeBron's performance in the sequel.
Well, guess what? Hold on to your britches, because this is going to be an Oscar-winning performance. All right.
While we entered into this, we might get into it later, but I would also like to say that when Jordan retired the second time from the Bulls, they won 13 games. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
No.
It's just not the same. It's just not the same. But we'll get David out of here. David, thank you so much for joining the show. Do us a favor and tell people where they can follow and support anything you got going on and then coming up.
Oh my God. Nothing coming up because we're in a pandemic.
Right.
So you can follow me on Chatterbait.
What's your OnlyFans handle?
Yeah. I tried that for a week. I made a penny. I owed money. David Bugenske, very easy to find. Thanks for having me, guys. This was fun.
Dope, man.
How do you spell your name, David?
Bugenske.
There you go, people. There you go, people. I know how to spell it, but people need to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right, brother. Thank you so much.
All right, Browns, Packers, put your money on it.
There it is.
The whole checking account.
All right, man. Thank you, man.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
All right, before we get into the association, because there's a lot going on in the association, we are going to bring in Vershawn Thompson. Mr. Vershawn is going to join the show and talk a little NBA with us. Welcome in, Mr. Vershawn. What's up, man? How you doing?
What's going on? Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, fam. It's a late tape today, so y'all know the rules. Late tape is happy hour somewhere. So cheers, to y'all. What you sipping on in the red cup? The red cup boys.
I kept it simple today, only because I thought I had some stuff to do after this, but I got a little Pinot Grigio, something like.
Oh, okay, I feel you. You on my vibe. Yeah, you on my vibe. I got a little red blend over here, so we'll do that.
Okay.
Okay. So first and foremost, the NBA has been postponing games, or has not been postponing games, with literally COVID depleted rosters. And now this thing it really got away from them a couple weeks, or I think it was last week. So there was one game where the Sixers fans was up in arms about this too, but the Sixers ended up playing a game with like 8 players. And it was Joel was out, and their whole starting 5 was out. I think Dwight Howard ended up starting. This one kid that I don't know the name of ended up going off and like taking 50 million shots because it was just him. Was it Paxi? Maxi?
I don't know his first name.
I don't either. You know his name, Vershawn?
Like a maxi pad.
I don't know the ball.
I don't remember him, but they've had a lot of issues with that. My take on this is that the NBA it looks like they need a bubble or some type of thing where they need multiple bubbles or something like this. This is one of the things we pulled up a graphic. This is one of the games that they are going to play tonight, right? So this is the Heat and Sixers game. Out for the Heat: Bam Adebayo, Avery Bradley, Jimmy Butler, Goran Dragic, Mo Harkless, Udonis Haslem, Kendrick Nunn, and Okapala, don't know him. Out for the Sixers: Stephen Curry, who has COVID, confirmed case of COVID, Ferguson, Harris, Korkmaz, Milton, Poirier, and Thibault. This is one of those games where they'll have nobody there to play, but yet they won't cancel the game. I don't get what's happening here and why they keep doing this, but I think that they need a bubble.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. I think they're doing the best they can. They laid out a plan, and they're just going to roll with it. And if anything, I think if they can't get a handle on it, what you need to do is maybe do a bubble again for the playoffs. Because then if you do that, any teams that work – because the thing is that pretty much every team is being affected by this. Because,
everybody.
So it's kind of, in a way, even across the front in that way. But if you put a bubble in for the playoffs, then look, everybody that earned their way in is in, and now we're in a neutral location, 1 or 2 neutral locations, and now all bets are off, and now we all play each other and see who's the best.
The only thing is that it's affecting different games differently, because that game that the Sixers had to play, because this was like the first instance of it. They had their whole roster was out. They had barely 8 players to play the game. But the team that they were playing was fully healthy.
Yeah.
So it wasn't fair that they got to – so now you're getting losses on your record that really shouldn't be there, because you play guys who just got called up from the G League. You know what I mean?
But it's also weird, too, because they have and still are postponing some games.
It's
others.
Weird. That's the other thing. It's like some games that they're like – they canceled like 3 games today. They canceled the Mavericks game. They canceled They canceled the Celtics game.
Yeah.
But this game, the Sixers and Heat game for tonight, is still going to go on.
Still happening. Yeah. And it's strange, because I think we all agree Adam Silver, when it comes to, these guys running some of these leagues, I mean, he's the best there is.
Yeah, so he is.
There's got to be a rhyme or reason that we don't know exactly, but I don't know if it's just, look, we can't cancel all the games.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know.
This is what I think. I think they're torn, right? Torn between trying to keep the players safe because of this. They already postponed the season before. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if they decide to put protocols for teams to follow, and the teams actually follow them, in theory, they should be healthy, right?
Right.
So if these teams aren't healthy, maybe maybe the discipline outside of like practice or whatever, maybe that's the challenge. And if your team doesn't have the discipline to possibly do the right thing for COVID-19, then your team is going to suffer because now they might get tested and somebody has to take the hit. Should the NBA take the hit?
Yeah, you're right.
Or should the team take the hit?
Yeah,
You know
I didn't think about it like that.
We're not going to miss any more.
We're not gonna miss checks because of you, because you did some idiotic stuff, right? Okay, I see what you're saying there, and that is a part of it, right? Like if you can't do what you need to do, you know, just like being in the bubble. Like if you have a player that missed the game in the bubble because he invited a stripper to his room, that's on y'all and the discipline and leadership of your team, and that's just as much a part of it as it is about what you do on the floor. We're gonna talk about Kyrie Irving in that same situation in a couple minutes, right? And so there's something to what you're saying to that point. They are going to start some new COVID protocols, right? So let's pull up the new COVID protocols because they're saying that they're tightening the protocols because of this breakout, right? And this breakout, before we even get to this breakout is not so much of a thing of the league, but just a thing of the America where we are, right? So we just put up a graphic where it shows the new coronavirus cases in the United States from July, 64,000. October went back down to 55. From October 8th to January 8th, it went from 55,000 new cases to 300,014. So it's just like it's a sign of the time type thing. So you just, you know, and there's no way to avoid coming in contact with COVID, like you said, unless you literally don't leave your house. You don't know where it is. It could be on the surface. Somebody could have it. It doesn't matter, right? And so their way to remedy it is they're trying these new NBA protocols. So here's what they are. Minimum 2-week window. Players and staff must remain at residence or hotels other than for team activities, outside exercise, or essential activities. Pre-game meetings and locker rooms will be limited to 10 minutes. All attendees must wear a mask. Players must limit pre- and post-game interactions to elbow or fist bumps. Avoid extended socializing, and then more enforcement on mask wearing. And there were a couple other things that I heard in the new protocols, like there was apparently a selective list of restaurants that they can go to when they go. And that to me was like idiotic. Like, just tell these dudes to stay inside. You went from having them stay on a campus in a bubble to like, these are the restaurants you can go to. These are the restaurants you can't. Like, I didn't get that. That didn't make much sense to me. So what do you guys think about the protocols, the new protocols?
What do you think, Vershawn?
I don't think these dudes are gonna listen. I'm gonna be honest with you.
That's why I think they need a bubble. That's why I think they just need a bubble.
I just don't
and put them back in a bubble.
Especially the stars, like you know, it's ego. It's a lot of ego in the league. And just telling a grown man what to do. And I think as a team, sometimes I don't know, man. I really don't know, because you don't know. You know, some people like James Harden. He the first half part of the season, he was doing whatever. Then you hear him getting traded. He probably don't even care what's going on right now.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? He probably like, man, I'm just going to go to practice and roll with the punches. I might get traded, might not. If somebody has something, I might pop out, you know, go to – who knows?
Yeah.
You know? I just don't know what they're going to do.
I'll tell you what. I've completely changed my mind on the Rockets after looking at their roster and looking at what that dude Woods – is it Christian Woods? He's putting up all-star numbers. If I were Harden, I mean, I would buy in for this season, because you've got a roster that actually, if it comes together, could win a championship.
That's a good team.
Very good roster.
Good roster.
You still got Eric Gordon. You still got Tucker. You've got Woods balling out, and you've got Wall,
who's dangerous,
very dangerous, and then DeMarcus Cousins.
Also,
if he stays healthy. If he stays healthy on paper, you've got a squad.
They got a squad.
Absolute squad.
Yeah.
So,
much more of a squad than where he would go to. Because wherever he would go, they would have to gut the roster.
Yeah. Unless there's a couple teams that maybe would be a better option. And you know, the Sixers and the Nets might be a better option. But other than that, I don't think there is.
Yeah.
I don't think there is.
I mean, maybe the way Kyrie's acting, might be all right.
Yeah, okay, so let's get into Kyrie. Okay, because that's something that has been happening. There's new developments with Kyrie every other day. So this started when Kyrie ended up missing a game last week. And the reports came out that Steve Nash didn't know that he wasn't going to be there, but that some of his teammates knew. So there was being reported that Kyrie didn't show up for the game, told some of his teammates, and never told Steve Nash. So they asked Steve Nash at a press conference, where's Kyrie? And he's like, I don't know. I haven't heard from him. Right. This is what I was telling y'all about Kanye Irving. I'm gonna stop calling him Kyrie, because his name is now Kanye Irving, because he always saying some weird shit and doing some weird shit and blaming it on the rest of the world. So, but this is what I told y'all about pumping the brakes on this Brooklyn Nets team, because you can't win a championship if your star players are not there. Number one, if they're not there and they're not healthy, they started sitting out games. Not even 5 games into the season. This is a team that wasn't even in the bubble, and 2 players that missed an entire season. So number one, what's their excuse for missing games? Are 5 and 6 games in? But that's a whole nother thing. So that's what happened. He told them that he told a couple players, but nobody else. So they had no clue where he was. If you want to go online, check the memes that they have of Kyrie Irving. One of them we just pulled up. It is a missing poster, and it says missing. Have you seen? It's a picture of Kyrie. It says identifying characteristics: nice smile, sage rituals. Last seen doing the Dougie at his sister's birthday party. That's the other thing. So he is now under investigation. They are investigating a video or an event that he went to that he's caught on camera in a club maskless, which breaks NBA protocols, which he can be fined for. I think he can lose up to $600,000 a game for breaking COVID protocols, that's
a really big reward.
What they said, 176 of their salary, which is like a game's worth of money, pretty much, right?
460K per game is what he would miss. If they can also link this to him breaking protocols and everything like that. So this is more Kyrie being Kyrie.
Yeah, it is. I picked them to win the championship. I'm sticking by that.
Not a good pick.
Kyrie's crazy, but you know what? When the playoffs come and it's time to get on the court, assuming that he doesn't have more personal reasons like being maskless at his sister's birthday party in a club or whatever he was doing, believing that the earth is flat or whatever else he's doing. I think he balls out, and him and KD are too powerful, and the rest of that squad they got. I wish Dinwiddie was still out there, but
they need them. They need them there because they're now 5-6. This team, right? This is the team that started hot, and everybody thought they were going to run off a bunch of wins.
No, they didn't start hot. They started slow.
No, I mean, in game 1, they won their first 2 games, and everybody was writing home about them like they were the greatest thing.
Yeah,
they blew out. They played the Warriors. They blew out the Warriors. Then everybody's like, "Whoa, watch out for the Nets."
Yeah,
and then Kyrie goes on a disappearing act, and no one knows where he is.
And
no
KD
one from the organization can find him.
And KD's out with COVID, and they've also both already taken off 2 or 3 games,
right?
Which is weird for sure. But again, but outside of that, I mean, and you can't really do this because their record's a record. But if you looked at if none of those things happen, what their record would be, and it would be really good. So it would,
but that's the big if about Kyrie. He's a head case.
He is a head case.
So that's what I'm saying. It's not like an asterisk. It's like this is something that you literally have to factor in when you bring him to your team, because he's done it everywhere he's been.
He's turning into the actually offensively talented Dennis Rodman.
Yeah. He is. Maybe even worse because Dennis would show up for games. Like they didn't have to, other than the
incident
really
show up.
He would show up, other than the incident where somebody had to go find him at the casino. He would show up for his games. There was a report that came out that said that somebody called up to Kyrie after the Steve Nash incident where he didn't tell Steve Nash he wasn't playing, and they asked him why didn't he play. And he said, "I didn't want to." Like what?
I think that's just he gets like that with
what?
He gets like that when people ask him questions. He's weird, man. He's weird.
I'm just not pinning my championship hopes on him. I don't think it's just not safe to me. It's not. Nah, that ain't it to me. It's just
maybe he got real mental health issues. Like
he does.
Real ones.
He does. If you ask me, he does. The same way that Kanye West does. I think he does. I think he really does. And so we'll see how that ends up shaking out. But as of right now, they 5-6, and they don't know when he's going to be back. And now he might have to serve a COVID protocol stint. So he might have to, right. So that's not including any suspensions that he might have. So this is going to factor into your season, right? If he does it again, if he misses games, you know what I'm saying? It's going to factor into your placement.
What is wrong with him, yo?
I don't know, man.
What is wrong with him?
I don't know what's going on.
But I'll tell you what, when he's out there playing, he's incredible.
When you can find him to get him on the court.
He's incredible. When he's there.
When you can find him.
If you can find his ass, he can play. Okay, let's get out of here on some rapid fire stuff. Donald Trump was scheduled to award Bill Belichick the Medal of Freedom Award, which is the highest civilian honor. Bill Belichick, good boy, denied it. He came out, he made a statement basically saying, I was honored to be offered this award, but especially after the events that happened last week with the Capitol inciting and all of this other stuff, he was just like, I just basically in good conscience, I couldn't accept the award, which I thought it surprised me a little bit because I know that him and Robert Kraft are genuinely like tight, good friends with Donald Trump. So part of me was like, he's going to take it. And then another part of me was like, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually denied it, you know?
It's a smart move because from a media standpoint, an image standpoint, it's not a good look.
It's not a good look. It's just not a good look. Even if that's your homeboy, it's just not a good look. The same way that people had to distance themselves from R. Kelly or from the guy on the guy on the New York on the Good Morning America show who got Robert. What's his name? Wasn't Robert? Can't think of his name, but he was in the sexual conduct thing, and people had to distance themselves because it's just some shit. It just does not look good.
It's not like Trump is like the most presidential president. It's just like an award. I got an award from Donald Trump.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Once you take it, you got it for life.
Right. And to your point, to that point, who is awarding you something is almost just as important as what the award is, right? So if you tell me that I'm getting a Nobel Peace Prize from Hitler, it's not the same. It's not going to have the same effect. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to put that on my wall. You know what I mean? I might have got it, but
I won't quite put Trump up with Hitler, but I know what you're saying.
Hey man,
but that's
close.
The thing because what is the headline there? It's not that
Donald Trump. It's not even an award.
There's no headline that says Bill Belichick wins or is awarded this award.
Freedom of you're right. It's never nope.
It's not going to be the headline. It's going to be the man that's giving him the award. That's what it's going to be all about. And you're in the NFL, which is predominantly African American, and you're in a very buttoned down, very proud organization. And after everything that just went down, you're just going to accept the award from this guy. Yeah. It just doesn't look good. Yeah, it's not that it's wrong, but it's not a good look.
It's not.
I mean, think about it. They're the Patriots. You know what I mean? That's not too patriotic.
Yeah, right.
Thing, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So he went ahead and denied it. Former Falcons head coach or not? Yeah, he was the head coach. Falcons head coach Dan Quinn just got hired as the Cowboys' new defensive coordinator. That I think he was the head coach when the Falcons gave up that epic lead to the Patriots, if I'm not wrong. Mm-hmm. The Cowboys just doing Cowboy things. Like, that's not something you want to associate yourself with. I don't know why y'all made this move.
In fairness, he got that gig because he was doing a bang-up job before that. So, to me, if he's not a head coach, is where he's had success.
I see what you're saying.
So if he's a good defensive coordinator, I mean, we see this all the time, right? A guy gets a head coaching gig who was a great defensive coordinator on a really good team, and then he goes, doesn't live up to expectations, and then he goes and does a solid job. So, I mean, look, anything's got to be better than what they had this year. That defense was like
anything. Literally,
I played against this Catholic school once when I was in 7th grade. It was flag football, but it looked exactly like the defense of the Cowboys.
Exactly. Literally anything. If you were on Twitter late last night after the game, depending on what coast you live on, roll COVID was trending. And at first I had no clue what that meant. And I'm like, what's roll COVID? And then I click, and we'll pull up a picture of what I saw with those trending words. It was this picture, if you're not watching, of God. A sea of people in Alabama who flooded the streets after Bama won the championship game.
Yeah.
And so they were like, you just decided to have a super spreader event after the championship game? And they're like, yes. And it's all, so roll COVID was just like trending on Twitter, and there were pictures and videos of like, it looked like the Million Man March. It was just like a gazillion people in the streets, like all next to each other.
Yeah. Listen, if you know, we're very if you're from the West Coast, like I am, born and raised, I have not spent a hell of a lot of time in other parts of the country or other parts of the world. Or if you're from, like, you're from Philly, right? Yeah. It's a different vibe. It's a city. It's a different. It's very diverse. It's a different thing. You want to see a place that's very red, and I don't mean just the
literally
type,
red,
very red and very we do not care, and very we're gonna do what the hell we want. Go to the South, Go 100%. To the South. Go to the South around my people, right? Caucasian people, and go to fucking Alabama.
That's
when they win a national championship game, right? I've been in Tennessee recording and writing during COVID, and Tennessee was open. They had
Tennessee is open, bro. Open. Did you see the stadium this weekend?
No.
It was. They claim that it was 15,000 people, which is a lot in itself. They claim it was 30. It was the stadium had to be half full, bro. Like I was like, how is Tennessee this open? How are they this open? Like I'm looking at the stands, like it's people everywhere, and they didn't even spread them out over the stadium. So no one's sitting in the top part of the stadium, but they're all bunched in these sections on the lower bowl of the stadium. I'm like, Tennessee's just doing whatever they want to do.
Listen, man, I've got my 9-year-old here who is, as you know, Joe, he loves sports more than I love him. That's how much he loves sports. And I love him more than anything in the universe. and my older son, like, he loves sports so damn much.
Yeah.
And he has not been able to play since his baseball season got canceled after he played one game for COVID, right? So he's sitting here. We practice as much as we can. And meanwhile, I go to Tennessee, and the first thing after I get off the plane is one of my label owners brings me to his son's flag football game. A bunch of little kids running around blocking and playing and tugging and grabbing, and like, and the bars are open. There's half naked chicks walking down Broadway. It's like nobody cares down there, dude. The South is a different beast.
It's a different animal. The Alabama thing shouldn't have surprised me at all, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit surprised at the Million Man March look of that of that picture.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide or Roll COVID. Deshaun Watson reportedly asked for a trade and apparently is standing by it.
He asked for a trade to the Niners.
Where do you think he should go? I mean, I think I wouldn't be mad at the Niners.
The Niners.
I wouldn't be mad at the Niners at all.
The San Francisco 49ers.
But I also would be down for him to come to the Eagles.
Yeah, but no, the Niners.
We are in need.
Yeah, hey, I like Jalen, but if Deshaun is trying to bounce, like let's make the deal.
Man,
but he needs to get out of there. They are wasting years of his prime, and it's really, all jokes aside, it's a sad story. Like for them to literally trade away his number one wide receiver for a bag of cheese curls, and then not replace him and not give him anything, and it's just like, this is not okay.
Which I still don't understand.
I don't either.
They were alluding to that one of the, I don't even remember if it was a coach or a guy in the organization. The whole point was supposed to be that DeAndre had some dirt that they found out, and it was going to come out that he had some major problems. There was nothing.
It was nothing.
And he goes and balls out in Arizona.
Yeah.
They're a mess. But let me ask you this, since you brought up the Texans. Did you see J.J. Watt's thing at the end of the season where he was talking about how it's unacceptable, the effort, not the record, but the effort that the team put in throughout the season? He was saying, and Austin, it was cracking me up. He watched this video it was on TikTok over and over and over. He watched this thing. But I was wondering how, and I told him this, how his team would feel, and I was for what he said. But I was wondering how his team would feel, and I told Austin, I was like, some of his teammates probably felt a little butthurt about that. And he's like, why would they feel better? I'm like, well, obviously he's seeing something, and the guys that aren't put out the effort know who they are.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how that's affecting the locker room and all that, but they shouldn't be. What were they, 4-12?
I think so. I think it was, I feel bad for him because he could be really in a position if he had a mediocre team. He would be in a position to lift them into the playoffs, and then we'll be able to see what they could do. You know what I mean? And at this point, we won't be able to. He's just gonna wash away at this point. You know what I mean? Like if he stays there, it'll be a tragic football story, I think. You know what I mean? Just as far as like somebody super talented who never saw their full potential because they were on a shit show of an organization.
Yeah, he would literally be like Archie Manning.
Yeah, it's not good. The NBA is considering adding 2 expansion teams to help with the COVID financial hit. Where do you think they should drop these teams?
Yeah,
I think Seattle. I think Seattle would be.
You got to bring the Sonics back. You got to bring it back.
Why not? I think they deserve.
I think they're coming. I think they're coming. I think it's already a thing.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
So
Seattle.
They want to add 2 more teams back.
They want to add 2 teams to help with the COVID hit.
Man, I would say the obvious choice, I think, would be Vegas.
Oh, that's a good one. Vegas,
right?
Yeah, I could see them doing Vegas. Vegas, yeah, they just got the Raiders and Seattle.
Take one of. We have 6 teams in California, or like 12 or something. Take one of our teams.
Yeah, they could take the Clippers. Nobody wants them here.
Nobody would care.
That would be cool.
Nobody would care.
Gilbert Arenas continues to put his foot in his mouth and say silly stuff. So basically, Gilbert Arenas said that if he was in today's game, he would average 40 points a game. This is Gilbert Arenas, if you remember. If anybody remembers Gilbert Arenas. Now, was he a good player? Yes, Gilbert Arenas was a good player. Should he ever say anything out of his mouth like this? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. 40 points a game, and today no one would average 40 points a game, let alone Gilbert Arenas.
That's not true. Michael Jordan would absolutely.
Michael Jordan would not average 40 points a game.
How do you think he averaged 37 in the
because the defenders are bigger, stronger, and better.
No.
And
and they
you
can't
think they're
touch
stronger?
Yeah,
they can't touch
100%. 100%. They didn't weight train and pour $1 million into their bodies in the offseason like these players do.
He was attacking the basket on guys way bigger than the overall big men.
These people aren't the game's not even the same anymore. No, it's not even the same.
It's not. But see, people talk about the physicality of that older game of the game back then, right? Which is there was a different level of physicality, right? But if you look at those guys, if you take a picture of Bill Laimbeer and put him up next to a picture of Danny Green, a basic like 3-and-D guy, he looks like it would look like Shaq standing next to Nate Robinson. Like, do it. Actually, Google it. I've done it. Like, those guys are not built. They're not as strong as muscle wise. They're bigger, stronger, faster now. The athlete today is way more freakish than the athlete.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say
he would not be. He would not take. Yeah, they're definitely more athletic. So this idea that because somebody was great back in the day, they would just torch guys today. It's bullshit.
But no, it's not bullshit.
Not true.
It's not bullshit. Because when I'm saying stronger and bigger, I'm talking about a big part of his game was attacking the basket, and he was doing it on bigger and stronger guys. That's 100% true. The athleticism overall, top to bottom, has gotten better. But dude, what people don't talk about is how freakish of an athlete Jordan was.
It's not about that. It's just no, it's not about that because I'm not disrespecting Jordan. I'm saying the athlete, the average athlete has gotten better over time.
Right, I agree with that. But
this idea that you would now come in a world where the athletes are better and score more points doesn't make any sense.
But attacking the basket was much more difficult in his day because of the size of the guys guarding the rim, and also you couldn't touch them now. You can't touch these guys now. You could halfway murder a guy back then. You can't touch him. We had an old Polonese on here. He said the same thing. He's like, he would scorch
everybody from the back. Everybody from back in the day.
No, but that's true
like
though.
That. Everybody in their era. Everybody's era was the hardest. And I mean, they all say that.
It's not about the hardest. It's not about the hardest. It's about the rules of the game now.
Right, but everybody thinks that their era was the era, right? And it's funny because LeBron actually talked about that. He said that I think it was on The Shop. He was like, people say this stuff, and we hear it all the time, and there was a bunch of athletes on there at the time, and they all were like, it's the craziest thing ever. He was like, they wouldn't come here and average 40 in our game. Like, it just wouldn't happen. Like, it's just a lot of revisionist history, and it's a lot of inflate. We like to fantasize about the past, and so it's a lot, and it's not just a thing that we do in sports. People do it in music, in movies, and various walks of life. Something from the past, when you talk about it today, the nostalgia allows you to inflate it. And so it happens all the time. But the idea that, like, somehow athletes everywhere are bigger, stronger, and faster, but when you come to this era, you're going to shit on them. It's just like, and it's not even like they're saying competitive things. Like, he didn't say 40 points. No one's ever done that. So now you would just do that because athletes are not as good now. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like,
it wasn't that long ago that he was in the league.
We act like we're 50 years removed. Like, Jordan was
it's not about how long we're moved. It's just about there has been a progression in the athletes. Like, they're, you know what I mean?
I can't let you say that Jordan wouldn't come in. Come on, Joe.
And average 40?
Come on. Absolutely.
Come on,
100%.
Why didn't he do it in his day?
100. We just said that.
Why?
You can't touch basketball players.
So he's different. He had Pippen. He had his squad.
You can't even put a hand on a guy to.
So nobody else since Michael Jordan in our game, nobody else has an offensive game that's better than Michael Jordan.
Is that even a question? Who has an offensive game better than Jordan?
So James Harden's offensive game isn't better than Jordan? His offensive game.
Stop it. No, he's incredible. He's incredible.
It's not?
He's not. No.
People are calling James Harden the greatest offensive player that they've ever seen.
Who said that?
Who is saying that?
Who said that?
Who is saying that?
When James Harden won those back-to-back MVPs, people have said that James Harden, Kevin Durant, they've said it about Stephen Curry. So all of these guys, who everyone, when we're not talking about Jordan, apparently, everyone thinks that they're the greatest thing offensively since sliced bread.
No.
But
awesome.
none of them ever averaged 40 a game. But somehow Jordan would come in and average 40 a game. It doesn't make sense to me.
Wait. Are we saying any one of those guys is better than Michael Jordan?
Offensively.
Are we saying that?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh God, no.
Absolutely.
So
Michael Jordan can shoot like Steph Curry?
No.
Look, this is the thing.
Michael Jordan can shoot like Steph Curry?
This is the thing.
Michael Jordan cannot shoot like Steph Curry, but Michael Jordan play. But you're not. If Jordan played in today's era, which is what we're talking about, there would be a bigger emphasis on his game for 3-point shooting, which he even emphasized more later in his career and competed in the 3-point contest.
You're telling me that Michael Jordan is heads and shoulders above some of the best offensive players of this era? Like he laps them. That's the nostalgia thing. It's just not true. It's just not true.
This is where we're messing up.
Kevin Durant is 7 feet tall and can do everything that Steph Curry can do.
He's great.
Michael Jordan is a better offense. Come on, y'all. Like,
yes.
This is insane. This is insane.
It's not insane.
Because, it is. It's nostalgia.
Vershawn, let me say one thing. Because
no,
it's not. Because what a lot of people do is they go, the athletes top to bottom, 100% are overall better and more athletic.
100%. It's not even close.
It's a smaller league, but when people say that, what they're trying to say that like that diminishes his athleticism.
No, it doesn't. It just means they're better.
No, wait. We still have athletes from 4 decades ago. Just because the overall league wasn't athletic doesn't mean we didn't have freak athletes that would be the most athletic players in the game today. That's what people confuse.
To say something is better doesn't mean that the thing that you're talking about is just astronomically worse. It's just to say that it's better. But if I tell you that there's nobody that played in that era that was 7 feet tall, that can dribble like Steph Curry, but can shoot like Ray Allen, it's a fact. It doesn't mean that the era wasn't good, but it means that they didn't have Kevin Durant didn't exist. Anthony Davis didn't exist. These people didn't. But now it's just like. It's just true. It's just a fact.
I'm not disputing what you just said, but my point is that doesn't prove to anyone that Jordan wouldn't average 40.
If I'm saying if none of them can do it, why would somebody who's not as good as them do it?
How is Michael Jordan not as good as those?
Michael Jordan is not the offensive powerhouse that Kevin Durant is. I'm not saying as an overall player he's not better, but just from size alone, Kevin Durant is shooting over anybody. He's like Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, Stephen Curry, like all these guys. Like, come on.
Let me know if I'm getting this construed right. because what initial statement was that Gilbert Arenas will score 40 points.
Yes.
In this era now, but we said no, Michael Jordan would. But I think the issue is not the.
I didn't say that.
No, this is what I'm saying. We're not saying the issue. It's not about the 40 points, right? It's really, I think what we're trying to see is I would expect that from Jordan before I would expect that from Gilbert Arenas.
Jordan himself wouldn't say that. Somebody asked him about that before, and he
I'm just saying
that it's not true.
I'm saying Gilbert Arenas came up with the 40.
I want to see him say that.
Google it. It's true.
I'll Google it.
Yeah, he said it. He said he wasn't true. It's just like he said that it's funny because he basically said the same thing in that episode that LeBron said. Basically said about the whole thing of nostalgia and how we disrespect eras because we love one era. We think we can drop somebody in another era and they'll destroy the era. And it's just come on, y'all.
I don't disagree with overall the theme of what that concept is. I'm just saying, just because an era is overall more athletic, also smaller, but overall more athletic, doesn't mean that a guy from another era wouldn't come in and dominate.
I'm just saying, if it was going to be that easy, somebody would have did it. You can't touch players now. James Harden offensively is unstoppable when he wants to.
I didn't say it was
40 points a game.
I didn't say that. I'm just saying. I mean, you yourself have called, and I don't know if you were being facetious. You said Jordan was the greatest scorer of all time. If he's the greatest scorer of all time, you don't believe he's the greatest player, but if he's the greatest scorer. But now you're saying maybe Harden or Durant is. But before you said that, he averaged 37.
I'm saying as an offensive threat, the same way that I think LeBron has more to his game. The same way that I think somebody has offensive attributes they have more than the X person, right? So whatever the person is, Exhibit A has more in their arsenal as an offensive player than one. And I'm saying James Harden, Kevin Durant from size alone has more, as he's more of a pain to deal with offensively than Michael Jordan would be, right? So if all of these guys, we've said unanimously, Stephen Curry is the greatest shooter that we've ever seen, right? Mm-hmm. We've said that unanimously, right? How come he ain't averaging we say this somebody else would have did it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's nobody else who's ever come along and been better at them at something. And the one thing we got to admit is that when you're saying people improve on the game. Somebody will come along and be better at basketball or be better at as a passer than LeBron James is.
That could be
better
true.
Than you know what I'm saying? So
I just haven't.
We got to let that go in our brains. Like somebody will be better.
I haven't seen anybody. You might be right, but I haven't seen anyone that I would call a better scorer than Michael Jordan. I just haven't seen it. And I love Kevin Durant. I love James Harden, and obviously I love Steph Curry. But I get what you're saying. Kevin Durant's attributes. Yeah, he's almost 7 feet tall. Dirk Nowitzki was similar. It's hard to guard. I get it, but I still don't put him above Michael
it's like
Jordan.
Some of these guys literally have the talents of multiple of the guys from that era in their body, like in one body. You know what I mean? Like literally,
they have hybrids.
Like LeBron James is built like Karl Malone, but can pass like Magic Johnson. And so you get what I'm saying? So we have these freaks of nature and we act like it's just so easy. I could have did it. And it's just
I think it's
disrespectful to the game.
I think it's the thing that
I think it's disrespectful to MJ.
I think because these guys are nice, right? They probably are better than Jordan, but they're not winners like Jordan was.
That's a different conversation. That's what I'm saying.
That's all I'm saying. I'm just like, these dudes are nice in comparison.
I'm just talking talent for talent. It's like you got to be able to admit.
But it's hard to talk talent. It's hard to talk talent when you don't talk about intangibles. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's not. Because you can.
I can't talk
isolate.
About
you can isolate things. You can isolate, right? Because I know people who I think musically, right, might be better than another guy, but I think the other guy went farther because of his intangibles, right? I know a lot of. We can make it personal. I know a lot of people that I respect as a musician that I think are way better than me that haven't done half the stuff that I've done. And I think that because they still in Philly and they do the same stuff every time I come home. They at the
every
same
Sunday,
place. Every Sunday
church.
Right? And so, but if you ask me who's the better soloer, I would say them. I can answer your question in a vacuum. You didn't ask me who is the better musician, who has more musicianship, who has more business savvy. That's not what you asked me. You asked me to compare Joe with that guy and who's the better. So I'm saying you should be able to talk about things in a vacuum, and people can't do that when it comes to their favorite athlete or their favorite superstar.
That's common.
They can't denounce the name. And I find it a lot when I talk to Jordan guys, and I'm like, who's the better passer? And I just say this and that, and they go, well, I can't, you know what I mean? They can't divorce from the name and the nostalgia.
Yeah.
I'm even if you talking about LeBron, I can do that. I can say, I would never sit up here and tell you LeBron James is the better shooter than Kevin Durant. I would never do that. You know what I'm saying? I don't think Kevin Durant is in LeBron's atmosphere as a player. But if you ask me in a vacuum who's the better scorer, I can tell you it's Kevin Durant. And I'm saying,
you don't think he's in his atmosphere? You don't think he's in his atmosphere?
As a player, as an overall player? No, absolutely not.
Not even in the atmosphere?
No, not even on a planet. He's on Mars, and he's still on Pluto or something. I don't know.
Listen, real quick. Jordan, 6'6", what do you have? 46-inch vertical, ran a 4.340. Quickest first step some people say they've ever seen. I mean, I'm just saying that he was doing stuff that even today would be and his hands were as big as
I don't dispute that. I don't. Like I said, if I say something is better, it's not to dispute that the thing is great. I know, but I'm just saying
the athleticism holds up to what's going on. It would still be elite today, is what I'm saying.
I agree. I'm just saying that there's athletes that do better things offensively than him, and they're not scoring 40 today. That's all I'm saying. Paul Pierce said that Luka Doncic plays a similar style. This is another one. Plays a similar style to him. He said, I'll pull up the quote. He said he sees a lot of himself in Luka. He's got a lot of me and him. Me and him got a lot in common. Which is to me, it was just like, go find Gilbert Arenas and sit down and lock the door. Don't ever talk to the media ever again.
First of all,
Luka Doncic? You comparing yourself to Luka Doncic?
First of all, Paul Pierce gets paid to talk to the media. That's literally what he does.
I want him to stop, though. I don't want to see him do this
I understand that, and he does tend to put himself in a lot of his analysis.
The grandiose delusions that he has. He's another one. He's another one. I would score 50 today. I would average a triple double, and it's like.
But listen. I do get the comparison because very similar build, not overly athletic, but athletic enough to utilize their size to be able to get done. Now, Luka, I mean, is a better overall player. From a scoring standpoint, I think the comparison's very fair. I think Luka is obviously an all-around better basketball player, and obviously right now not nearly as accomplished. But yeah. I get it. I mean, he kind of looks like a white Paul Pierce with the build and how he moves around the court.
I don't think we just don't want to hear that. You know what I mean? Nobody walks around saying, "Yeah, like I'm Paul Pierce." Like they call me Baby Paul Pierce. Like
nobody says that.
Come on, dude. You're not even.
It don't hit your ears.
He's nice. He's nice.
Yeah, that's true.
But we're not. No, you're not. You're just not one of those guys.
Listen. If you're a white dude, the only guy you want to be compared to really is either
Larry Bird
or Larry Bird. That's it, because that's like being compared.
Jason Williams, white chocolate was nice.
Oh yeah. If you got the handles, Jason Williams, like the guys that are considered up, you know what I mean, like the elite of the elite.
And Shannon Sharp calls him Baby Bird. He calls Luka Baby Bird, which I think is appropriate. So. Yeah. The Lakers will resume the tradition of going to the White House after winning the championship on June after Joe Biden is sworn in on June 20th. They'll resume the tradition of going to the White House. They haven't gone, but they're not the only ones. A bunch of teams actually that I didn't even realize haven't gone in the past 4 years. So we'll see teams go back to the White House because Hitler's gone. Bruce Willis got kicked out of a pharmacy for refusing to wear a mask. And that's all. That's the show for today. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that.
Wow.
Bruce Willis, man. Just put your mask on, bro.
Hey, listen, man. You die hard.
You die hard. Vershawn Thompson, thank you so much for joining the show today. Thank you to David from KFROG for joining the show. It was amazing. Continue to check us out on YouTube and subscribe and turn on your notifications.
Can I real quick read a text from David?
Yeah.
He said, well, thanks for the invite, and please tell Joe I said thanks as well. Y'all have great chemistry. Radio should be an option.
Radio, let's go. Let's get us a show. Go. All we need is a slot on KFROG, bro. Let's do it.
Let's do this.
Okay. Let's do it. Vershawn, tell the people where they can follow and support anything you got coming up.
Hey, come on, follow me at Mr. Vershawn, MRVERSHAWN. Also, I got my baller beard oil right here.
Come on with the beard. I gotta cut my beard oil too.
You got the all the ballers out there, that's me right there. Drop my beard oil September. You know, so if you want to look like a baller, you come holler at me. Baller Beard.
If you want the James Harden like he got, you got to grab the baller.
You want the James Harden?
I haven't got mine yet. Please forgive me. I will cop it.
Vershawn, Joe still doesn't care about Avery Bradley's kid either.
I know he doesn't. Yes, oh my God, he does not care about Avery Bradley.
He doesn't care.
Yes, I do.
You just like, whatever. He got like a family or whatever.
I don't know. Is there some sort of thing like his kid might die or something like that? I don't know. But
I got a lot of respect for Avery.
Right. Yeah. Whatever you say, man.
JT got an album, got a record coming out this weekend.
Oh, I got a single coming out Friday. How about you? I just put out the post yesterday. It'll be on all streaming platforms. Super excited. We're going to get it moving with this, and we got 3 follow-ups that are really strong, written by writers that are much, much bigger than me, so I'm stoked about that. And JT Harker on everything, also JT Harker Sports. I repost everything from backstage on JT Harker Sports and also get into the sports cards game. Also, MJ would average 40 in today's NBA.
No way. He's insane. Thank you so much for watching. This has been another episode of Backstage Sports Podcast. Till next time, be safe and be great. Peace.
Backstage Sports.